Who hasn't got a booklet? Was the only speaking? You want one? Kai te pai, Auntie. We're just about to do our karakia, so kai te pai. Kai rara te tuanui o tēnei whare o tātāu, kai te mihi atu. Kia timata hia, kai runga te tuku whakamoimiti ki o tātou nei kaihanga. Muri mai tēnā he mihi, muri mai te mihi, katahi ka tuku atu ki a tātou nei tiamani konei, a Leon. Ko te karakia mo hea tia whānui te motu, te karakia o te atua. Koe rāta tātou nei karakia. Kia kotahingia i a tātou, kei runga i tēnei karanga, kei runga i tēnei kapapa, whakahire i tō rangine. Ko te atua te hongia mātou, ko te karaiti te hongia mātou. Ko te atua te hongia mātou, e tō mātou matu i te rangi. Kia tapu tō ingoa, kia tai mai tō rangatiratanga. Kia mea te atau e pai ai ki runga ki te whenua, kia rite anō ki tō te rangi. Ho mai kia mātou ai anei he taro mō mātou mō tēnei rā. Muru o mātou hara, me mātou hoki e muru nei o te honga e harana kia mātou. Au hoki mātou e ka wea kia whakawaia, whakaorangia mātou i te kino, no hoki te rangatiratanga, te kaha me te karoria, āke, āmene. Me ki rā ko te amorangi ki mua ko te hāpai o Kimuri. Kai tēnei ngā whai tua ka tika kia mihi, kai tēnā taha kia waikato tainui, ka mihi ki tēnā mai apo o tatau, tā whiau, mahuta, te rata, ia koro ki, te ātarangi kāhu, tai hoki rā kia tū heitia, e noho nei ki te tumu tāwhito i tōna mātua tipuna pai Mārire. Tai hoki rā ki tēnei, te kawarau a maki, te akitai o Wairoa, me ki rā Ngāti Whātua, ka tika kai runga i ēnei o ngā ukai pō whenua kia mihi atu a tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Anei rā ngā ure o kura haupo o tā kitimu, e hui tahi nei kia whai huarahi pai mo tātou kei ngā tau kahiki. Mea mihi rā ki ena e tau maha kairungi o tātou nei pokohiwi e kia nei o tātou nei mate. Ngā mate o te tau, o te marama, o te wiki, o i nei rā tonu e noho nei kairungi te āta mira o tātou nei marae putano e tamanti. Koutou rā, hoki atu, haere atu rā. Haere atu rā, kai runga i te ki, anei rā, ngā tūmanako, ngā wawata, ngā moimoia e mahu e tēra e koutou, mā tātou nei i pi kauhia. No reira, koutou hoki atu, haere atu rā. Taka hia e rā te ara whānui a tāne ki te wāhi e kore hoki mai. A ko tātou tēnei, e o uri whakaheke, e o toto, e o hāngai, e tutuki hia i tēnei kaupapa kei muarai i a tata. Nō reira e koe, e kara, tēnei te mihi ki o koutou. Me ki rā e tahi mātou, pēnei ai te āhua, ka mea rangatahi, te mihi atu. Hoi anō, anei rā tō rōpu, nāna no ki ko wai, ko te tika kia whakatakato hea i tēnei ngā mihi, kai runga i tēnei whenua, kai roto i tēnei whare. Kia pai o tātou nei whakaro i te kaupapa nei. Nō reira ngā pito o te whare nei, a tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou, ko tātou tēnei. Ka piti hono tātai, hono rātou kua mihia, tātou te kanuhi ora, kia ora nui mai tātou.
Tūtira mai ngā iwi, tātou e. Tūtira mai ngā iwi, tātou e. Pai a te maramatanga, me te aroha iwi, ki ako tapatahi, ki ako tahi rā, tātou
timatahia i tēnei o ngā takataka haere, kai tēnā pito, kai roto te rohe o te Wairoa, koe nā te hui tuatahi. Muri mai tēnā, ka tāwhiti atu ki ahuriri, koe nā te hui tuarua. Whakawhiti atu kai runga e ngā taraikara i a rimutaka, te upoko te ika, koe nā te hui tuatori. Muri mai tēnā, timatahia kia waiariki kia rotarua, koe nā te hui tuawha. Ina nahi rā, ka tai hoki rā ke kirikiri ro. E waware wari aku nei koe. Koe nā te hui tua rima. Anei rā i te rangi nei. Hoi anō tēnā tātou e pūhia nei e te hau, e ua hia nei e te ua, e whitia nei e te rā. Kia ora na hui mai tātou.
Kia ora tātou, my name is Leon Symes, I'm the chairperson for Tātou Tātou Te Wairoa Trust. I'd like to welcome everyone here this morning. As I say, I'd like to welcome everyone here this morning. This is our sixth in a series of 9 engagement hui that we'll be holding around the motu. Obviously, we came to you about 12 months ago to seek the ratification of our deed of settlement and also the ratification of our post-settlement governance entity. So that's 12 months ago. We're here with the trust has obviously been operational since the deed of settlement signing. Just like to acknowledge our fellow trustees who are here today and acknowledge Petey's introduction. I'd just like them to obviously get up and introduce themselves so you guys know who is representing you currently on the post-settlement governance entity.
Kia iho ngā manu mātua tamu Wairoa tapu ngā ngā mauna. Ko te apuna kamatita Mauri tuku ingoa. I am the trustee for ngā tukuruma āhi Mauri.
Kia ora tātou katoa. My name is Hui Huata. I'm one of the trustees for ngā tukuruma āhi Mauri.
Kia ora, I'm Oha Menu and I'm a trustee for Te Wairoa Tupukarau Cluster 1, which is, in a nutshell, the Taiho Marae, Te Ko Te Kaurati, and Te Akiwai Marae and Hauariki. Kia ora.
I'm Janina Symes and they just let me loose from Nuhaka for a little while. So I'm from Nuhaka and it's good to be here to see you and to hear your whakaaro today.
Kia ora koutou katoa, ko apia te tāpuni au. The representative for the Wairoa Waikato Moana Māori Trust Board, along with Richard Nina, and the two of us are Te Ranga Marae representatives on behalf of our kia ora.
Tēnā mō tātou. My name is Piri Munro from Whakaki. I'm one of the 2 elected trustees. The other is Heta Kaukau. So there's 2 of us from Whakaki Nui Ari. Kia ora.
And thanks to all the trustees. Obviously, there's half the trustees here. We've got another 7 trustees behind us. So there's 14 trustees who you're about to see a presentation. It's a culmination of the work that they've been putting together over the last 6 to 7 months while they've been in operation. Obviously, a new trust, so there's a lot of work being done in the groundwork to get the trust operational. But at the same time, our trustee required us out of the pre-settlement entity Te Tira Whakiumi that negotiated the settlement, a component there, what we call the work plan component. And basically today we're here to kind of start that process off. Obviously to have starting that process we need your feedback in terms of what you would like to see in terms of the settlement. So it's quite unique in the respect that a lot of settlements, they have a pre-settlement entity that continues on into the post-settlement phase. This time around, it was quite wise with the negotiations into Te Tira Whakiumi that they thought that they split that out and obviously start afresh and start from a perspective of gaining everyone's values, principles and aspirations first, a higher level kind of approach, starting off with a range of concepts that you'll see in the booklet as well as at the presentation about where do you want to see the settlement go in terms of the future. So obviously we realised that we need to set something quite unique in place. We want it to be our own, something different. Obviously there are other PSGs out there have gone about it a bit differently. obviously we will be looking at what they've been doing in the past as we go through this process of engaging with you. This is the first of 3 sets of engagement hui that we plan to have. They're quite important because obviously at the end of the day it's our members, it's you that decide on where this goes. The future is, obviously we don't want this left to the trustees to decide on their own. Obviously we need the feedback from our members to make sure that the decisions they make are in the best interest for what you want in terms of the settlement, because at the end of the day the settlement is yours, it's all ours. We need to make sure that we get that feedback from you to make sure the decisions we make are going in the right direction that you want to take in. So yeah. Health and safety, obviously exit is there. So you mark one here. Wharipaku is just through there past the cafeteria, in through there, and assembly points just straight out here. Basically today's presentation you're about to see will be broken into 2 sections. The presentation is in the booklet, will be a talking video there. We'll have a short Q&A in the middle. That Q&A is focusing on basically the process that's got us here today in terms of the pre-settlement with our settlement and where it's going through the House of Representatives, where it's at. And also the other part of the presentation will be a workshop session where we need to obviously get your feedback from you. While we got you here, we want to use you here to provide some ideas and stimulate your discussion regarding the values, aspirations, principles and the concepts around, particularly with the concepts, you'll see these 2 particular areas we're focusing on, asset arrangements or asset ownerships and governance or representation. Those are the 2 kind of key questions that we'd like to see your views on. In the booklet you'll see these 2 extremes there, a devolution and an amalgamation concept, but that'll be further discussed and explained in the video and as we go through the booklet. So we'll have a short Q&A about that and then we'll break into just one workshop today. I think there's enough just for one, and then Piri will lead that workshop where we can stimulate some of that thinking about where you want to head with the settlement. That's it. And if further ado, we'll start the presentation and then hopefully it stimulates some good thought.
Our history is a many-layered history. It is a complex history. It is a history where we fought with the Crown. It is a history where we fought against the Crown.
The word te arawhiti means bridge and refers to something that connects items together. It also refers to a journey towards enlightenment or knowledge.
Today is about 2 big things. It is remembrance, it is remembering our past, it is remembering those who laid the pathway for us, and it's about celebrating this day. This is not the end of our journey, this is just one part of it. And in receiving the Crown's apology, in signing the deed of settlement, it is those 3 instruments that together that will then allow us to turn around our waka and face it back towards the sun.
Tēnā koutou katoa, nau mai, haere mai. Thank you for joining us today for our first round of engagement hui on where we are at and what we need to do. We are Tātou o te Wairoa Trust, the post-settlement governance entity for the iwi and hapu of Te Rohe o te Wairoa. It is our responsibility on behalf of our iwi and hapu to manage the redress that will be received as part of our settlement with the Crown. We are almost through the final stages of our journey to settle all of our historical Treaty of Waitangi claims. We are also in the process of transitioning from our negotiating body, Te Tira Whakaemi o te Wairoa, to our PSGE Tātou o te Wairoa. Today's hui is an opportunity to hear more about the process, what we as the Trust have been up to, and the next steps Where to from here? What you tell us during this engagement hui is critical to help shape the thinking on our future representative structure, which currently has 7 kāhui or clusters and about asset ownership arrangements. The presentation is approximately 30 minutes long. Following this presentation, you will have the opportunity to ask questions, and then we will break into smaller groups to workshop some of the kōrero. The workshops are a chance for you to provide feedback and raise any initial thoughts. We have allocated 30 minutes for the questions and answers. Following the workshop session, we will have a kapu tea so you can meet your representatives and our support teams who are here today. If you are not yet a registered member of Tātou o te Wairoa, we can help you to register today. We are holding 9 hui across Aotearoa, in Wairoa, Ahuriri Napier, Te Whanganui Ātaro Wellington, Rotorua, Kirikiriroa Hamilton, Tāmaki Makaurau Auckland, Papaioia Palmerston North, Waihopai Invercargill, me Otautahi in Christchurch. The information presented at each hui is exactly the same and will cover our journey to this point, including a quick recap of negotiations and the lead up to the deed of settlement signing, a look at the parliamentary process where our settlement is currently sitting and the potential time frame moving forward, our aspirations, values and principles looking back to 2012 when these were created, and 3 concepts that could make up our future structure. Your feedback and thoughts are really important. What you tell us now will help Tātou o te Wairoa land on our direction and approach. We will be canvassing your views for the next 6 months. Today's consultation hui is the first of 3 phases between now and February next year. In November, we will come back to our people with more details and models based on your feedback. Once we have landed on a direction and structure, we will need you to vote on that. For now though, we simply want your thoughts and ideas.
There are a number of people who've guided us, who led us, who provided inspiration for us, who annoyed us, who took us to task, who told us off, but they were all part of the rich tapestry of our journey. And I think that's something we shouldn't forget when we get to the other side. They all contributed, big, little, small, whatever way it was. They created the tapestry. That's what we're looking at today.
Before we talk about our aspirations, values and principles, we are going to take a quick look back at how we arrived at this point. Our journey to settlement. Treaty of Waitangi claims in our district have a long and significant history dating back to the early 1980s. In 2002, iwi and hapu met and decided to work together to progress our claims across the district under the auspices of the Wairoa Working Group. This was the genesis of Te Tira Whakaemi o te Wairoa. In 2009, Te Tira Whakaemi o te Wairoa had its mandate approved, which allowed us to negotiate with the Crown. It took a lot of hard work, but Te Tira reached the best deal possible for our iwi and hapu. Our settlement was initialled in May last year and then had one of the highest turnouts during ratification. It was accepted by 96% of those who voted, which is one of the strongest settlement votes to date. Our settlement is now before Parliament. It has been read once and is currently being considered by the Mauri Affairs Select Committee. The committee has heard submissions and held a hearing in Wairoa. We expect the second reading to be in November and a third reading in March next year, where we want as many of our whānau to attend as possible. All going well, the settlement should be given the royal tick of approval next May. This is where we'll receive our recognition and have the agreed assets returned to us by the Crown. We'll now look briefly at the settlement, which includes the Crown apology delivered at our signing last year, an agreed historical account, Crown acknowledgements of treaty breaches, cultural redress that recognises the traditional, historical and spiritual associations people have with whenua and sites owned by the Crown in Aotearoa, and financial and commercial redress that has a total value of $100 million. Further details about the settlement can be found on our website or on page 7 in your information booklet. Once the settlement has made its way through Parliament, tātou o te Wairoa will receive and administer the redress and any future assets. It is an exciting time for our iwi and hapu. Since the deed of settlement signing in November last year, trustees have met monthly in Wairoa. Pānui from those hui are posted on our website. We have been putting together our work plan that is focused on determining the final asset and representation arrangements, which we will go through shortly in more detail. We have also engaged with our neighbouring iwi, the local community, councils and government agencies. We will now focus on the two areas where we want your feedback, thoughts and questions. Firstly, your aspirations, values and principles. There is a whakatauki, ti tiro whakamuri kia mōhio ai koe te huarahi, kei mua o a koe. You know not your future until you know your past. In 2012, a series of workshops were held to identify our aspirations as we work towards the settlement. At the time, our kāhui said the aspiration, or moimoia, was to be happy, loving, healthy and wealthy tangata whenua. Kāhui also agreed these values and principles were really important to our iwi and hapu. Mana motu hake, mana moana, mana tangata, mana whenua, manaakitanga, peace and tranquility, tino rangatiratanga, kaitiakitanga, cultural identity, tikanga, Mauri worldview, rangatiratanga, arikitanga, mana rangatira, awhi, rangi mārie, aroha, whakapapa, te reo me ona tikanga. The values were captured in this statement. Aroha, tika, awhi, manaki, rangi mārie, as a driving force in our decision-making and treatment of one another. The ideas, aspirations and initiatives were visionary. Tātou o te Wairoa Trust acknowledges what our whānau, hapu and iwi all said in 2012. We now want to know whether your aspirations, values, principles or expected behaviours have changed, and are we missing anything? What you tell us will refine those ideas and more clearly identify what success looks like for te rohe o te Wairoa. Following our questions and answers session, we will hold a workshop to talk further about this kaupapa.
The challenge for tātou o te Wairoa is the utilisation of what we received in our settlements to ameliorate the circumstances of our people, to support and nurture our kōrero, our tikanga, our reo, and cultural well-being, to support our role as kaitiaki over our taonga, to provide a catalyst for tribal and district development, and to continue, as we have done in the past, to provide a positive contribution to our people, the district, the region and the nation.
E anga whakamua ana te waka, forging a new path. We will now look at 3 asset and representation concepts. Your feedback will help form the basis for developing our post-settlement governance models. There are a range and mixture of potential models. We will use your feedback to work on these models between now and the second round of Engagement Hui in November. The 3 concepts presented today reflect possibilities at each end of the scale and a middle option. The 3 concepts are devolution, whakatohatoha, collaboration, mahitahi, and amalgamation, kotahitanga. Each of these concepts could be applied separately to assets and representation arrangements. It will be possible to incorporate aspects of different concepts in our new PSGE structure. For example, you might like to see more amalgamation in the way assets are held and more devolution in terms of representation, or vice versa. Throughout the rest of this presentation, you will hear the term groupings used. We have not made any determinations about what those groupings could look like. It may be that they are similar to the existing clusters known as our kāhui, or they could be groupings along different lines. Whakatohatoha, or devolution, would potentially mean no ongoing collective entity. grouping-based representation, where each group is responsible for their own asset management and each grouping receives their own share of assets. There would be no collective decision-making. Under the concept of mahitahi, collaboration, groupings would work together with a singular entity. With grouping-based representation, a combination of groupings and centralised asset ownership, with collective decision-making while ensuring we retain individual autonomy. The third concept is kotahitanga, amalgamation, one collective entity, where representation is determined by the entity, potentially with no groupings. All assets would be held by this entity, which makes all decisions. It is important to understand these are concepts only. We are not asking you to choose which one fits best for you today. We simply want your feedback. For example, what do you like and why? And have we missed anything? There are a number of different options and possibilities of how these concepts could be structured. Once we have all of the feedback, we will consider that and further develop the concepts to include more detail. We will now look a bit closer at each concept and their pros and cons. All of this information is contained in the information booklet and can be found on our website. The first concept is whakatohatoha, devolution. In this scenario, complete devolution would suggest that all assets are distributed to groupings. The groupings are solely responsible for asset management and no assets would be held by tātou or te Wairoa Trust. Mahitahi, collaboration might look like this. Groupings hold some assets and are responsible for those. Tātou or te Wairoa Trust would also hold some assets. Together, groupings and tātou decide which assets go where. The third concept is kotahitanga, amalgamation. Complete amalgamation would suggest that all assets are centralised and held by tātou or te Wairoa Trust. Tātou is solely responsible for asset management and no assets are distributed to groupings. We will now look at representation. Under whakatohatoha, more devolution might suggest that groupings decide how they appoint representatives and the decision-making powers of those representatives. Tātou or te Wairoa Trust ceases to exist. Under mahitahi, to reflect a collaborative approach, groupings might appoint representatives to tātou or te Wairoa Trust. Each grouping decides how they want to appoint their representatives. Under kotahitanga, representation could be decided by voting at large, not by groupings. For example, the people with the most votes would be appointed. Groupings cease to exist.
The hui that was held here at Takitimu Marae enabled the Crown to face the facts about past actions and omissions.
This is a glorious occasion and we've heard today so many reasons why it is. And we must not ever forget any of those things. It is who we are. However, we have spent too long judging our own past, too long judging the actions of our tipuna. And so Te Arawhiti is really about symbolising that part of our past and the need to put it behind us and start to make our way into the future.
Let's now look at the pros and cons of the three concepts. Remember, these are concepts only. They might not reflect our final structure, which could be a blend of all three. We'll start with the pros of whakatohatoha. Whānau are closer to decision-making. Groupings take responsibility for the advancement of their own members and their own projects. More mana motuhake at a whānau and kāinga level. The pros of mahitahi are: whānau participate in decision-making at a grouping level, and that feeds up to tātou or te Wairoa Trust in a similar way to our current structure. Mahitahi gives more mana motuhake than the total centralisation concept kotahitanga. It provides the ability for groupings to advance their own projects and the ability to combine resources for regional projects and administration work. Combining some assets achieves economies of scale and more economic clout when dealing with the Crown, local authorities or corporates. There is less duplication, so the resources are not wasted, and a shared vision between groupings as upheld by Tātou Tātou or Te Wairoa Trust. For kotahitanga, grouping assets achieves economies of scale. It is easier for third parties like local councils to work with because it is one single entity, not multiple groupings. Kotahitanga gives greater economic clout when dealing with the Crown, local authorities and corporates. For whakatohatoha, there is the risk of losing cohesion on a regional level. Groupings invest and grow assets alone without a shared vision. Duplication of projects and duplication of administration work would lead to wasted resources. There would also potentially be tension and uncertainty about which assets go to which group. The cons for mahitahi are complexity of the concept. Unlike whakatohatoha and kotahitanga, which are more straightforward, it requires greater consensus between groupings. The cons for kotahitanga are that whānau, hapu and iwi are distant from decision-making. The ability to exercise mana motuhake is limited, and there is potentially a perception that members would be disempowered due to their distance from decision-making. So, those are the three concepts. To see these laid out next to each other and in more detail, go to page 12 of the information booklet or to our website. Let's now recap on the timeline and what we would like to know from you. We are holding our first series of Engagement Hui this month. In November, we will come back to you with further details once we have considered your feedback. November is also when our settlement legislation is likely to be read in Parliament for a second time. In February next year, we plan on holding a ratification process on the special resolutions required by our trust deed, where we will ask you to vote on our potential asset and representation arrangements. In March, the legislation is likely to pass its final reading, with a settlement date in May 2018. That will bring to an end over 30 years of mahi on this important kaupapa. However, it is just the beginning of our new era. By the end of July 2018, we will need to complete the amendments to the trust deed by special resolution, and in October there will be new trustee elections. So, as you can see, it is a busy time but an exciting one. You can provide feedback in the workshop shortly through our Facebook page or the feedback form on our website. Remember, you decide on the final asset and representation arrangements. During our second round of engagement, we will seek your further feedback on the proposed models. Then the initial trustees will make recommendations, and all adult registered members will have the opportunity to vote on the special resolutions. So, please check with whānau to ensure they are registered. If not, tell them to head to our website now. We'll now have questions and answers. Before we do, we have the following ground rules. Please respect others and remain quiet so that their question can be heard clearly. Please identify yourself when you speak, as we have to record your name in our meeting minutes. Please keep questions related to the aspirations, values and principles, or the three concepts outlined today. For other matters, please talk to one of your representatives who are here today. Nō reira, from all of us at Tātou Tātou o Te Wairoa Trust, ngā mihi, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Mauri ora.
Thank you, whānau, for listening to that. Obviously, just a quick couple of points to begin with. Obviously, we have admin support here today. We're just recording some of the kōrero that comes out of the workshops, as well as the questions and answers. So we've got Melissa down the back. And also the cameras here today. Obviously, a lot of our whānau are online. We analyse the data, and we see that the participation through the social media is quite high nowadays in terms of the people attending and wanting to be informed. Obviously, a lot of our whānau don't live back at home. We've got 70% of them live elsewhere outside the Wairoa district. A lot of them are obviously based overseas as well. So we want to make sure that our engagement process or engagement strategy encompasses a wide variety of means aspects, so that we get a wide opinion on where we need to take this particular concept to. So just to clarify that there's no voting today. We're not expecting anyone to vote. This is not a vote, a ratification vote. This is more an engagement with you to bring the trustees out, present what we've been doing for the past 6 to 7 months, which I'd like to congratulate our trustees on. We're putting a lot of hard effort and work in to get to this point. Obviously, today's a combination of all that effort. But we're keen here today to present ourselves, to get you engaged in this discussion. Obviously, it'll be new to you, some of you, so obviously we'll need to kind of stimulate not only your thinking here today, but hopefully you take it home and discuss it with your whānau as well. Also, you would have seen registrations as a key aspect. Currently we have 6,500 members registered. We think there's 34,000 members out there in the country. Obviously we want as many members registered and participating in this process as possible. It's not an exclusive process. We want them widen and broaden their scope and capture of our member base to make sure that obviously these decisions now we make are key for the future. It's a unique opportunity to have this opportunity to go through this process now. Obviously, when the settlement does land, it gets a bit more difficult when the money's there and the assets are there to make some changes later on. So obviously, we've got this period where, as you see, the settlement doesn't land until May next year, to go through this process over the next 6 months, to have you engage, dialogue with us in terms of what you would like to see when it does land. But in saying that, we have the opportunity is, if we don't get it right out to 2020, when our trustee requires us to have the work plan completed. But obviously the initial trustees that you have elected has taken this on and wants to get this done during their term of office, which is to 2018. So that's the goal of the initial trustees. And then in October next year, there'll be a new set of elections where, based on what comes out of the work plan, hopefully that we'll be able to settle on a final PSG structure. So questions and answers. I'd just like to focus everyone on the process to date, obviously our settlement legislation, and then as well the process going forward. There's some probably stimulating questions you may have regarding the concepts and the aspirations and values. We'll leave that to Pierre in the workshop we're about to run after our Q&A, and then we'll go from there and have a cup of tea. Bye-bye. Cool. Questions regarding the process to date, the settlement? Is there any questions around that? Obviously we've got some work to do in the next phase with the coming up with specific models, because some people like to see more detail. Obviously that's when we look at other options around what's other PSGs have done, but for now we'll high level at the top and the process going forward, and then a vote and ratification obviously at the end to approve the changes. So. Where's the first question?
Yes, sort of breaking the ice. We've got a young lady just at the back here, Melissa. She'll be capturing your name and the question and your kōrero.
All questions are good questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question. All feedback is good feedback.
Doesn't care.
Registrations, we had a question during the lead up this morning. Your registration details have transitioned from Te Tira Whakiumi that you provided during the ratification to tātou. So all those details, you would have been out the front there coming in. Hopefully you all checked your registration details are correct. If you haven't, please do so. Obviously, as I said, we need up-to-date contact details so we can keep you all informed of what's transpiring.
Tō inoi, te hika. He haki I tērā. Ko te wāhanga e pāna tēnei mea me tautoko tātou ko hara mai, ko hara kia tātou I mu te tāmuhia. I just acknowledge our minister for the day, saying a prayer on each of our behalf, and also the fact that he chose to use the Lord's Prayer, because it's one of the few prayers that says we've got to forgive those that trespass against us. And that's the hard part. That's the hard part. We would get our mihi atu, e koe mō tēnā. As far as the question, by the way, my name is Ku Tirikātene, and as far as one of the questions are concerned, I make many trips from the airport to my home in Takanini. And on that journey, I encounter 30k, 40k, 60k, 80k, and 100k. And also, I get 1 lane, 2 lane, 3 lane, 4 lane. And yet, for all the time that I've travelled, many times from that journey, the traffic either flows smoothly or you get big tight, but we all get there. And I think, why is that so? And when I see your driver's license, I know you've been tested to drive a car. Doesn't tell me that you're a good driver or bad driver, but you've been tested. And I think, and sometimes on the journey I encounter about over 100 to 200 cars in my journey. So just say there were 100 cars, so there are 100 drivers of all nationalities, of all different ages, but they're sticking to the same rules. And the rules that guide us from travelling from one place to another is the road code. That's part of it. It's the road code. Those that look after the signs, and that fellow with the red light on top, the prihimana, to make sure that you travel that way. And when I look at all these concepts here, we don't know how well off we are. And when I say we, Mauri, you know those tēnei mea te aroha ki te tangata, te manaaki i te tangata. That's in our DNA. Now, other cultures are realizing, hey, there's something what they're doing, but we're not quite sure what it is. And I believe it's those values. I believe it's those values. And I think what we should be aiming for is to make sure that we have a set of values. You know, there's some of those things. Aroha underlies all those things. All those things. And if we get these values, or ngā kaingāko sorted out, that would guide all our decisions. And if we have to test them, let's get a raihana for tēnei mea te aroha. A raihana mō tēnei mea te ngā tikanga. E raihana mō tēnei mea te whakahua kupu, pronunciation. You will know, if you've got that license, you've been tested at least. Inu me tērā koerea te whakaaro noi ho, ki tēnei wā, engari ka mihi atu kākou. Kia ora.
As I say, we're on this journey that's, as John and Tamati Olsen have alluded to in the video. One set of phase, we're at a particular time now. Previously we've bound by Crown policy that have got us to this point. Now we're in a next phase where there is no Crown policy but ourselves to set the framework for that. We're not bound by it. We're doing this journey for not ourselves but our probably children's children. We've got to look to long term, and we need to develop something that's unique to us, ourselves, that we all can be part of and want to aspire to be part of. Ka pai.
Just checking. Pai o whakaro i te pāpā. There's a part of our workshop where we're going to be focusing particularly on values and principles. E tikana tō kōrero. But when you were looking at me and sort of checking to see whether I had a license, I thought, oh yeah, pai tēnā. But then when you sort of said you were reflected about the prehiman and the red light, I thought you must be a really good driver because they've changed from red lights down a long time ago. So, kai te mihi atu, kai te mihi atu.
Any questions? We're not clear on the process. We're going to come back again in November with some detailed models. I've gone out there and had a look at all the other PSGs and got some specialist advice about what could work with taking your values and principles, your discussion on the concepts about the workshop, and bring it together and have some more detail for you. And then next year we'll have a vote about what recommendations the trustees will make in terms of what we've come back for.
Just got a whakaro. Kia ora, aroha sōmu katoa. And I've been working here in Tamaki for about 6 years now, and as I say, my husband and I are tūturu kahuru hard. And so I'm in a place that's, I don't cook up a tea. So I've had to learn to work with a lot of different iwi that we have up here. But they keep saying to me, oh, you're so kahanunu, And I'm going, well, what do you mean? Because they talk about Ngāpuhi and their behaviour and their beliefs, and then they talk about kahanunu. So when you talk about us, we might need to unpack that a little bit. Because I go, well, and is it me personally? Do I reflect that all the time? Or, so yeah, it's a bit faded a bit. Even though we could say where we come from in our whakapapa. What does that look like? Kia ora.
Yeah, currently, we're kind of strong with our kahui current. Some of us are quite tūturu this or tūturu that one, that may mean what we mean in this context, but in a broader sense, there are wider,
There's also quite much
Yeah.
Karen, how old do we have to be to register? As I brought my nephew and my son.
Yep.
And can there be any amendments to these concepts?
The registration, obviously we want everyone to register their children as well. Currently on the database there's about 2,500 under 18-year-olds. Obviously 18 years is the voting age for you can participate in the process. So if you want to register, please register as well as put your children on, so then they automatically become members. In terms of the concepts, they're just kind of a broad spectrum. Obviously there's two edges to the concepts that we haven't considered. Obviously devolution of individuals, breaking the settlement up into 34,000 bits and pieces and everyone gets a payout. Obviously we're looking for, this is for the future, and we don't get this opportunity again. And obviously at the far extreme is obviously keeping it all together as one settlement for 30 years and turning 100 million to $1 billion, and then not trying to alleviate some of the initial issues that we have in terms of deprivation. So, but in the middle of that context is a range of options that will basically where we'll land. It's a continuum where, in terms of assets and representation, that they may be at opposite ends of the spectrum. But we need to come up with a model that will be reflective of that. That'll workshop. That's all workshop stuff.
The answer is yes.
Yeah. Yes.
For bringing our pepe here, because when I grew up in our little village of Whakakei, and I have worked, studied and lived around Aotearoa, I knew who all my cousins were. I knew all our tikana of our marae. That's why Whakakei is. Everyone loves going to our marae for a kai because it's like to fill it up. And with all of our aunties and nannies and uncles. They knew all the mokopuna. We could cuddle into Nanny's kuku, you know. We could go and get the Mauri hana. We could go up to Te Rainga and get the watercress. We were just totally whakawhanaungatanga and kotahitanga. So, and I still know all the names of my cousins, you know, from our Whakaki native school, and Uncle Kuru and them. They taught us about your place, and Nanny and all of them, Auntie Molly and Auntie Annie and them. They also taught, like, none of us ever got sworn at, none of us ever got pushed away, none of us were hungry even though we were pohara. But we grew up with that strength. And when I worked in a lot of park-care systems, as a nurse, as a social worker, as a co-owner of a dairy farm, etc., and then going into research, such a lonely life, because you are the only one. So, kia ora koe, and I've been fortunate to have married in Hui and brought up in there. So yes, our real absolutely matters. And when I've been lost and looked backwards, I've always looked back to Whakaki, where we were so full of love and where we were all taught everything. Like, I can remember getting told off for being porahima on the marae with my cousins, but I learned all those values. But I was also taught about why there's a pai, why you have that nanny doing the karanga. All those things I was taught. So when I went to the very strict Hui to grow up and finish my education and working with the thing, you know, I could sit along Hui because they're very, very strict. Because I had been given those very basic values, and not to be a know-all, not to be a blow-all, but to know where you come from. And that's what I love about being a Whakaki girl. And I came here today, and I am registered nephew, but not there, because of you, Piri. You're our boy. We are so fortunate, darling. But good on you for bringing our rangatahi. You should bring more of them, because they're not as confident as us. We've got to make them confident.
I think it was a big guy.
You heard right.
As we've been going around, particularly the ones, the centres outside the Hawke's Bay region, you get that strong connection of, you know, what it was like back in the old times. Yeah, back then it was coming through, and all the who we've had so far, wanting to, how can we get Wairoa back up to the day where the main street was, you know, bustling and doing all that activity and all that connection. So that's the kind of we're getting that vision coming through. How can we support home, but at the same time try and support our members who live outside the district, and obviously, and that was, yeah, all those aspects, health, education, have all been coming through, and obviously we need to be smart and wise, and we cannot use the settlement to build health centres and education centres all over the country. There's opportunity to partner with existing iwis that are in these areas to leverage off what they have, and obviously also provide services for their members if they were to live in our area. So yeah, so we can be smart about this in this particular time. Cool.
And although you guys may or may not be old enough to register, the work that's happening here today and over the next actually directly impacts you. So I'm glad you're here, because we need what you're thinking, what's bouncing around between those ears. We can do all the boring stuff, but we need you to convert it to what's real for you. Kapoi?
And the feedback, we had feedback at they do one about on bounce down the big cable and that stuff. Little kids, so you know, they all got feedback. I mean, what is? Any questions? No more questions. We'll break into the workshop. Here's our man. He will lead us through that next phase, and after that, we'll just come back together for the final Q&A, and then a cup of tea. Cool.
Kia ora, Leo.
just while our technology is getting sorted out, you'll need these things. You'll need your book and the pages that we're going to be working with them all. We'll come to each page, we'll tell you which one. It's pages 9 and pages 12, so it's only 2 pages out.